Good afternoon. This is Steve Lookner from the Right Side Broadcasting Studios in Auburn, Alabama with a breaking news update. A U.S. appeals court has refused to end the block on President Trump's travel ban. This block was put on by a Maryland judge a couple of months ago, and this appeals court refused, which is the Fourth Circuit of Appeals, which has purview over the Maryland federal judge, and this court is in Virginia. They today issued a ruling that said they were not going to unblock the travel ban. We'll talk a little bit about why that is, but a big picture here is that now President Trump needs to decide if he is going to take this to the Supreme Court. He has said earlier that he would do that, but no announcement that I've seen yet today from the White House. So the administration can appeal this ruling to the Supreme Court. And we're going to talk about a little bit about what this ruling said and a little bit of the background of this travel ban. If while we're on the air you'd like to write in, we'll also take your comments and your questions. You can reach me at the address on your screen right now. I'm on Twitter. I'm at @Lookner, at Lookner, or you can email me at steve.lookner@rsbn.tv. So let's just take a step back and review the history of this travel ban. So I believe the first travel ban came out in January. And that original travel ban was, it involved, among other things, a 120-day freeze on all refugees coming into the country, a restriction on the number of total refugees that would come in the next year, and also it said that nobody could come in from 90 days who is not a citizen, from a U.S. citizen, from 7 different predominantly Muslim countries. And I'm going to tell you which ones those are because I don't remember off the top of my head, if I can call it up here. It was Iraq, Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, Syria, and Yemen. So a judge put a stop on that one and said it was unconstitutional. And eventually what happened is the president decided to release a revised travel ban, and I believe this was in March. The original one was on January 27th, and the second one was, I'm trying to get the date here. I'm going to assume it was March. So I'm sorry if I'm wrong about that. Let's see if it says in this article. When was that one there? All the details you want to look up before you come on the air, and that one I didn't get. So anyways, it was a little while ago. I'm sorry, Jake? Sorry, Jake? Oh, no, we don't need it on the screen. Thank you. That was just Jake asked me a question. Sorry, we're good right now, Jake, because I don't know what article I'm going to. Jake, if you want to show the New York Times article, the front of that one, you can show that for a second. So the first travel ban, it was declared unconstitutional by a federal judge. President Trump, a little while later, I think it was in March, was when he issued, and Jake, can we just go up to see the headline of that one? This is, we're just showing you an article there. There you go. President Trump around March issued a revised travel ban, and this made some changes in the original travel ban, which was designed to have the travel ban not be subject to being declared unconstitutional. So one of the main changes, and also there were other problems people had with the first travel ban. So really, this revised one that was issued was supposed to deal with the constitutionality problem and perhaps other problems in the travel ban, and other problems in the travel ban. So for example, the revised travel ban, and Jake, we can go back to me, and I'll let you know, Jake, I might refer to the articles later, so I'll give you a heads up if there's a specific one we'll refer to. Thank you, Jake. So in the revised travel ban, for example, Iraq was not included among the countries from which, for 90 days, non-citizens were not allowed to come. That was one change that was made. Another change that was made was that it was clarified that visa holders, green card holders were not subject to this travel ban. And also, Syrian refugees were given. I don't know. I don't remember the exact provision, but there was some provision made for Syrian refugees, and it was not a blanket exclusion for all Syrian refugees coming in for 120 days. And also, in terms of the constitutionality issue, there was like a hearing process set in place so that people who had a problem with a certain person getting banned could actually do some kind of appeal process and have a hearing about this. That was supposed to address the due process complaint about the first travel ban. So in spite of the travel ban being revised, however, this travel ban was declared unconstitutional. And there were two different judges, one in Hawaii and one in Maryland, who declared this unconstitutional. And the one in Maryland, so this was the one, the appeals court today was ruling on the Maryland judge's ruling on the travel ban. The Maryland judge blocked the travel ban, blocked a specific part of it. The Maryland judge blocked the part of the travel ban that said nobody from these 6 predominantly Muslim countries that is not a citizen can come into the country in the next 90 days. And what the Maryland judge basically said in his ruling is that this travel ban is directed at Muslims. It's a Muslim ban. And while it's not, and the ruling, if I remember it right, basically said, look, while the specific language of the travel ban, the revised travel ban, doesn't say this is a Muslim ban. If you look at what President Trump and his hold on, let me get my thought again. So if you look at what President Trump and people in his campaign said during the campaign, then it becomes clear to the judge, this is what the judge said, that a reasonable person would think this is a Muslim travel ban. And Jake, could we just stick on the headline of this story out here, because we have the monitor on. So thanks, Jake. We're working a little. We have a monitor in the room, which is a new thing for us here, and so we're working this out. And Jake is very helpfully putting up articles, and so I'm just seeing a little bit out of my eye the movement, and so I'm just letting Jake know to freeze it here. So thank you, Jake. And So this travel ban, the original judge in Maryland said, hey, this is actually a Muslim ban, like Muslim ban in disguise, basically, because it's not on the face of it a Muslim ban, but the original judge said a reasonable person, I think the language was something like any reasonable person would think this is a Muslim ban, which I disagree with, actually. I have a big problem with that ruling. So the administration appealed this ruling, and today the appeals court in the 4th District upheld the ruling, and I upheld the Maryland judge's ruling, which blocked this part of the travel ban, which blocked preventing people from these 6 countries from coming into the country for 90 days. And I found a copy of the ruling online, and I haven't read through the whole ruling. It's about 205 pages. But I did see a part in the ruling where at least one big part of this appeals court ruling today is the appeals court said, yeah, we think this is a Muslim ban in disguise. That's basically what they said. I'll read you a little bit of it in a second. But so my problem is with the original judge saying this is a Muslim ban and the appeals court saying this is a Muslim ban. My problem is, first of all, if you look at the language of the ban, it's not a Muslim ban. Second of all, if you look what the ban actually does, it picks out 6 predominantly Islamic countries and not a lot of other Islamic countries, and 6 countries from which there are clearly potential safety issues with those states having big states where there might be a lot of terrorists coming in, and states where they might not have adequate security to screen people, and there might be worries about terrorists coming in from those countries, Iran, Somalia, Sudan, Yemen. So if it were a Muslim ban, why would you not add, say, Saudi Arabia to the list of countries? Why would you not add Indonesia to the list of countries? So there's plenty of Muslim countries that were not on the list of banned countries, and to say it's an anti-Muslim ban seems to ignore that fact. And also, just because there were some remarks said during the campaign about maybe we should consider a Muslim ban, that to me doesn't imply that this particular ban is a Muslim ban. if I say like a couple months ago, I really want to go to New York. I think I should go to New York and see a Yankees game. And then today I tell you, well, I planned a trip to New York. It's totally unreasonable of you to just conclude that I'm definitely going to see a Yankees game on this trip because 2 months ago I said I'm thinking of going to see a Yankees game in New York. There's plenty of other reasons I could go to New York besides seeing a Yankees game. So if I tell you I'm going to New York today, it wouldn't be reasonable for you if I said to you a few times a couple months ago, maybe I should go to New York to see a Yankees game, and you knew I had other reasons to go to New York. Maybe I like going to see Broadway shows. Maybe I wanted to go see the Statue of Liberty. So to just conclude I'm going to New York today to see a Yankees game because a few months ago I said I think maybe I'd like to go to see a Yankees game in New York. And I also have plenty of other reasons to go to New York. It just seems like that's an inference you shouldn't be making. And to me, just because President Trump and his associates said some things during the campaign about possibly considering a Muslim ban doesn't mean that the court should assume that this is a Muslim ban, when on the face of it, there's good reasons to think it's not, and there are decent reasons to think there's a totally reasonable interpretation on which this ban is not a Muslim ban because there's other reasons you'd want to have a ban like this, the administration would, besides banning Muslims. So, and I think unless you can conclusively show with a very high degree of probability that this is a Muslim ban, there should be deference from the court to the administration. If it's not enough to me for the courts to say, well, we show that it's maybe possible in some sense this is a Muslim ban. They're saying something stronger than that. And let me read you what the appeals court said today. The appeals court said, this is from page 56 of the ruling. It said, the evidence in the record viewed from this, the evidence in the record, this is the record of like the stuff that President Trump and his people who were working with him said during the campaign and possibly during the transition. The evidence in the record, viewed from the standpoint of the reasonable observer, creates a compelling case that the executive order's primary purpose is religious. Now, first of all, let me say this seems to be a softening of the Maryland judge's language, because if I remember right, the Maryland judge said that any reasonable observer would conclude that this is a Muslim ban, which I think is just wrong. But this says the evidence in the record, viewed from the standpoint of the reasonable observer, creates a compelling case that this executive order's primary purpose is religious. So this is saying, then candidate Trump's campaign statements reveal that on numerous occasions he expressed anti-Muslim sentiment, as well as his intent, if elected, to ban Muslims from the United States. So again, what basically the appeals court is saying here in this part of the ruling is saying any reasonable observer would look at the evidence and say, well, they say presents a compelling case, but it seems to be they're saying any reasonable observer would say this is probably a Muslim ban. This is probably they make a stronger statement. The primary purpose of this ban is religious. They say a reasonable observer would have a compelling case to think the primary purpose is religious. And to me, I feel like I'm a very reasonable observer, and I don't think the primary purpose of this is religious, because it doesn't make sense to me that if the primary purpose is religious, first of all, there are all these other Muslim countries like Saudi Arabia and Indonesia and Egypt that aren't on this travel ban. If the primary purpose was religious, then they would be some of those would be included in the travel ban. Also, another reason to think the primary purpose isn't religious is that President Trump just so much of the time he's been campaigning as president has emphasized safety from terrorists. So, and they don't really talk about those quotes in here, and that suggests that that the primary purpose could be stopping terrorism. And these 6 countries that are specifically mentioned in the ban are ones where I think there's reasonable evidence that terrorists might come from those countries. So if I'm a reasonable observer and I think, well, if I had to guess the primary purpose, The primary purpose would seem to me to be anti-terrorism. Now, maybe somebody can make some kind of case there's an anti-Muslim sentiment there. Personally, I think you get into a little bit into conspiracy theory land there. But certainly I don't think a reasonable person would think that the primary case is anti-Muslim. Now, maybe there's a reasonable person out there, I don't know about this, but maybe somebody can convince me that there's some reasonable person who thinks, well, there's like it's both anti-terrorism with some sort of anti-Muslim view purpose attached. But that, even on that view, the primary purpose is an anti-Muslim. So to me, I just have a very big problem with this part of the ruling where it says the evidence on the record about what President Trump and his associates said during the campaign and during the transition, I believe it's talking about during the transition, but it talks about specifically campaign statements. So I have a big problem with this claim that if you look at the record of the campaign and the statements made during the campaign, there's a compelling case made to the reasonable observer that the primary purpose of the executive order is religious. So that's really what the Maryland judge's ruling, as I read it, in this appeals court ruling, as far as it comes down to. Now, I haven't read the whole appeals court ruling, and I will say there might be other parts of the appeals court ruling explaining why they think there should be a block on this ban, but I do recall that the Maryland judge's ruling, the original one, really focused on this one issue, which is the Maryland judge said that any reasonable observer would think the primary purpose of this ban is religious, is a religious purpose against Muslims, which I just think is a false statement and just wrong. So that's my big problem here is that this ruling today, like the original ruling, seems to be based on the claim that any reasonable observer, if they looked at President Trump's campaign statements, would think the primary purpose of this executive order is religious, and that just seems to me a very dubious statement. Okay. Anyways, that's the brief summary of the ruling. And again, President Trump, it's up to him whether he, in his Justice Department, whether they want to appeal it to the Supreme Court. So we'll see if that happens. And I also want to just check here. If I hadn't seen any kind of statement from the White House, and I'm just doing a quick check to see, make sure there's none came out in the last few minutes. Let's see here. Okay, I don't see any kind of statement from the White House. I want to quickly see if you have any comments on this. If you have any comments about this appeals court ruling today, which upheld the blocking of the travel ban, please feel free to write in. I am at Lookner on Twitter, at Lookner, or email me at steve.lookner@rsbn.tv. Hello to everybody watching on both YouTube and Facebook today. If you're watching on Facebook, please feel free to share this video. We love when you share the videos. That lets more people know about Right Side Broadcasting. Also, please consider donating to Right Side because we are viewer funded. We can't stay on the air without your support. If you'd like to donate, you can go to rsbn.tv/donate, rsbn.tv/donate. Or if you're watching on YouTube, you can click the $ at the bottom of the chat room, and that will allow you to donate. Or if you'd like to get free stuff from Right Side, like this Right Side mug, you can go to our Patreon site, which lets you set up a monthly donation and lets you get free stuff in return, www.patreon.com/rsbn. Oh, and thank you, Jake. See, Jake put it up on the site. Oh, all those addresses are up there. Thank you, Jake. So what was I going to say? Oh, and thank you to the moderators for moderating the chat today. Let's see here. I got a message from somebody on Ginforte, but I'm not going to talk about that now because that would be a little off topic. And let me just pull up my email here. But I should mention that we're covering that election tonight. Hold on one second. We have a message from Amanda Maccabee writes, why is the Supreme Court not allowing his travel ban? Also, I became a patron of RSBN. First of all, Amanda, thank you so much for becoming a patron on Patreon, our Patreon site, and supporting us that way. That's really kind of you. Thank you so much. We'll send you a little note later today about that, I'm sure. Now, your first question is about the Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court has not ruled on this yet. there's 3 levels of federal courts. District court, lowest level. They do initial rulings on federal lawsuits. Then the appeals court, if you want to appeal that ruling, you go to the circuit court. And then if the circuit court rules a certain way and you're not happy with that, you can appeal to the Supreme Court and see if they take the case. So what happened here is back a couple months ago, I think it was, the federal judge, the district court judge, put a block on the travel ban. So the administration appealed that to the circuit court. That was the court that ruled today that they were not going to stop the block on the travel ban. And now the last option that the administration has is to appeal this to the Supreme Court. I'm guessing they would take the case. I'm not sure, but I'm guessing they would. And then we'll see how the Supreme Court rules on it. Something else I should mention is that there were actually 2 blocks on the travel ban. A Maryland judge blocked part of the travel ban, and a Hawaii judge a couple months ago blocked even more of the travel ban. The Hawaii judge blocked not just the part saying people from these 6 countries can't come in for 90 days, but the Hawaii judge blocked the part of the travel ban that said no refugees for 120 days into the United States. Now, the Ninth Circuit Court is hearing an appeal on the Hawaii judge's ruling. I would assume we would have a ruling from the Hawaii judge at the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, which I think is in the state of Washington. We'll have a ruling from them on the Hawaii judge's ruling at some point soon. But regardless, there's a block put at least on the 6 countries part of the travel ban because the appeals court in Virginia upheld that today. So, but you might end up having 2 different appeals courts upholding a block on the travel ban. I'm not sure if that's the case. Which one President Trump, I'm not sure, can they appeal both? Do they pick one or the other to appeal to the Supreme Court? I don't know the answer to that question. But thank you again, Amanda, for your donation. Much appreciated. Let's see here. Okay, I'm just looking to see if there's any more updates on this. Oh, I forgot to mention also our election coverage. So if you were watching us last night, you know, and even if you weren't watching us last night, you probably know that in Montana there's a special election today to fill the congressional seat vacated by Ryan Zinke, who became Secretary of the Interior. And that election is between Republican Greg Gianforte and Rob Quist, the Democrat. And last night, there was an incident where Greg Gianforte body slammed Ben Jacobs of The Guardian, a reporter from The Guardian, and he actually received a misdemeanor assault citation, Greg Gianforte did last night. But Greg Gianforte is, as far as I'm aware, has not made any further statement after receiving the assault citation. And I have not seen any public appearances he's been doing today, so I have to check on that. But we are covering that election tonight. That election is tonight. Who knows whether that could swing the election, what happened with that. So we will have a live coverage. I will be doing it tonight, a live coverage of the special election results in Montana. That's on Right Side Broadcasting. It's at 8 p.m. Eastern, I think is when maybe 9 p.m. Eastern is when it starts. I can't be sure. Jake, is it possible for you to look at the event and tell me, is it 9 p.m. Eastern when it starts? I think it might be 9 p.m. Eastern when we start. 9 Eastern. Thank you, Jake. And if you want to, you can go to the page right now at Right Side and look it up, and you can. I think you can. Jake? How does that work? I mean, when it says people are waiting for the broadcast, do they click on like alert me about this, or are they just sitting there in the room? When it says people are waiting, what have they done? Oh, they're just sitting there waiting. Okay, so people open up the window and wait for it. So you can do that as well. But we're looking forward to covering that for you. Ryan writes in about the travel ban. Under Trump's plan, the man who attacked my country, Manchester, would not have been allowed entry. He traveled to Yemen last month. Now, I'm a little confused about this because if the guy who traveled, he traveled last month out of the country. I know he traveled to Libya. I wasn't aware of Yemen. Or was it Libya or Syria? I think it was Libya. Anyways, but he was a British citizen. My understanding of the travel ban, correct me if I'm wrong, is that if you're an American citizen and you travel to, say, Iran, this travel ban would not apply to you because you're a citizen. I think it only applied to people who weren't citizens and weren't permanent residents. That's my understanding. So, Now, somebody please correct me if I'm wrong on that, but that was my understanding. But thank you, Ryan, for the message. Let's see here. Okay, so we're going to just be on for a couple more minutes here. If you have any last comments you'd like to get in, you can write to me at Lookner on Twitter, at Lookner, or email me at steve.lookner@rsbn.tv. Also, feel free to follow Right Side Broadcasting on Twitter. We're at RSB Network. And subscribe to us on YouTube. You can get alerted about all of our videos when we go live. And click the notifications bell when you subscribe to us to make sure you get alerted about all the videos. And finally, if on Facebook, you can like us and follow us on Right Side Broadcasting on Facebook. So I guess... hold on, I want to make sure I'm caught up on your messages here. Ryan says it was Libya that the bomber went to visit, and he said they should stick to the first order. Unfortunately, so Ryan, if you're a fan of the first order, unfortunately, it looks like they're not sticking with it, and also they would have to appeal that as well. Because I think, I'm trying to remember now, didn't the appeals court uphold the first? I know a federal judge blocked the first travel ban, and I think an appeals court blocked that one too, or upheld the block, so the president would have to appeal to the Supreme Court on that one. But I believe they've forgotten the first one, and they're now focused on the revised travel ban. Let me just check my messages here. I have a message from P-Cell. P-Cell writes in, there is a time to play politics and there is a time to be smart. That time is now. It is unbelievable with the high level of terrorism in the world now. We all saw what happened in the UK. Because of the inability of a proper vetting, this terrorist was able to travel 3 continents and multiple countries, thereby causing harm, destruction, and death to the people of England and their children. On the other hand, we are privileged here in the United States to not experience such terror at home. Yet few individuals are ignoring the danger by letting down the means of protection through vetting. Wow, for what reason? For what reason? A big news to overshadow the president's trip overseas and the accomplishment thereof. So one big thing you're worried about, P-Cell, is that you think there's a lot of terrorism going on in the world right now and we need proper vetting. And, a purpose of this travel ban was, actually, I know in the original one, I forget what the language was of the revised one. I assume it was somewhere. But in the original one, it said, hey, we need this travel ban to just give us time to revise our vetting procedures. And you're saying, with the you think that with all the terrorism in the world right now, that's going on, it's very important for us to get better vetting procedures. And you think this travel ban will help us do that. And also, now, again, I want to clarify that this revised one, I don't believe would have applied to the bomber because the bomber was a British citizen. However, you might think, well, because all this terrorism is happening, that makes it extra important that we improve our vetting procedures, and that's why we should have this travel ban. So thank you, P-Cell, for writing in. JC says, is it Barbara Braley, donated $50 and said, Jake, is that a yes? So JC says, Barbara Braley donated $50. Please correct me if I'm wrong, JC, and it wasn't Barbara Braley, but I assume it was. Donated $50 and said, we will not be stopped, Trump supporters. Love RSBN, love RSBN mods. Thank you. And thank you, Barbara, for the donation. That's very kind of you, very generous. So we, as I said before, we rely on your donations to stay on the air. So if you'd like to donate, rsbn.tv/donate, or click the $sign in the bottom of the YouTube chat. And I should say, Lynn Jean, if you're watching, we haven't written your name on the base of the microphone yet because we're still working out our microphone attachment system here. So as soon as we get that all, we were going to write RSBN Mod Squad on the microphone base because you donated this microphone, the new microphone we're using generously to us. But we were waiting to write the name of the RSBN Mod Squad on the microphone base because I think we might have to get a new cable for it. So we're going to do it. We're just waiting till things are a little more permanent here. This is lovely. I just got a message from Norway. Norway, welcome back. I haven't heard from you in a while. It's fantastic to hear from you. So this is Norway's message. Norway says, It is a sad day when I, a Norwegian, have a better grasp on the U.S. Constitution than Chief Judge Roger L. Gregory. His ruling today is not a ruling pertaining to the U.S. Constitution, but rather a ruling in accordance with the Sharia and a submission to jihad of the pen. There are four main forms of jihad. One, jihad by the sword, like the recent Manchester bombing on 9/11. Two, jihad by the pen, like American civil liberties attorney Omar Jatwat did in relation to the Fourth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in Richmond, Virginia. Three, jihad by speech, like the unindicted terrorist organization CAIR does before the TV cameras. And four, jihad by money, like we see when Arab states spend billions of dollars buying American universities to conduct operations of influence. When American judges roll over and sell out the U.S. Constitution in favor of Sharia like we see here, it is dhimmitud. That is exactly what Islam is seeking. It is the voluntary submission by the kafir, the non-believer, to Islam, affording money and power for the spread of Islam. This verdict is outrageous. It is not un-American but anti-American, and Trump must take this to the Supreme Court. So, Norway, thank you for your views on this. And again, I always enjoy hearing from you, Norway, so great to hear from you today. That was Norway on why he is not a fan of the ruling today by the appeals court that upheld the block on the travel ban. Hold on one second, please, here. This is a message from Mike from Indiana. Mike says, Steve, thank you for receiving and answering so many emails. You're welcome, Mike. It's my pleasure. Mike says, I think one chatter stated, we might sue judges for such political rulings, whether constitutional or not. It seems quite reasonable. And it seems to me there has been ample time to re-examine it / adjust our vetting system. So, all right, Mike, a couple things. First of all, in terms of suing judges, you're saying, it seems to me like you're saying, is there some kind of redress if judges are acting in a way that people disapprove of? So I don't believe you can sue a judge for a political ruling. There is an impeachment procedure for judges that's in place in the Constitution, but I think you'd really have to show there have to be really compelling evidence of wrongdoing of some great sort, and if I'm remembering right, I think the impeachment procedure it's through Congress. I can't remember, is it through the House or is it different than presidential impeachment procedure? But it is through Congress. I think it is voted on by the House and the trials by the Senate. But that's really so Congress can remove judges through impeachment. But I don't think any kind of rulings like this, you're not going to get anything like that through the House, as far as I'm aware. But I don't believe there's a lawsuit kind of possibility for that. And in terms of, you say there's been ample time to re-examine / adjust our vetting system. So it sounds, Mike, like you're saying that that the administration should have had time enough already to adjust the vetting system. Now, I will say this: the administration, I think, one thing that they said in the original travel ban is they said they needed to stop people coming into the country for a while to allow them to shift their resources. So they might say, well, because we haven't had the travel ban in place, we haven't been able to shift our resources toward re-examining our vetting system. That's at least what they might say. Okay, we have Andrew Sova says, regarding the travel ban, how about Hawaii? Could that be excluded? Can all the refugees go there? Oh, did you see that Barbara Braley donated $50? Yes, thank you, Barbara. We thanked her before. Hawaii, Andrew, it seems like you don't like Hawaii because Hawaii is in the U.S. They're a state. So it sounds like you just want to send all the people. I think you're saying if they're potential terrorists, couldn't we send them to Hawaii? That's still America, Andrew. Come on. Do you have a specific problem with Hawaii, Andrew? But thank you, Andrew, for writing in. I Stand With Trump sent me a link to a video about the terror attack and says, I think you'll find it very informing. MAGA, keep up the great job at RSBN. Thank you, I Stand With Trump. I'll check that out later. JC writes in, Steve, where were these judges when Obama was destroying our country? Thank you, by the way, for moderating, and all the other moderators for moderating today, JC. Okay, I think I'm caught up on the comments, and I think we're going to wrap it up our coverage for now. Let me just do a quick check and see. I don't see any White House statement about the appeals court ruling, so I'm guessing they will release one later. But I hope you join us tonight for our coverage of the Montana special election results. That will be at 9 p.m. Eastern, starting here on Right Side. So please join us for that. I want to thank Jake Seals for doing his usual excellent job producing today. Thank you to the moderators for moderating. Thank you to Barbara Braley for her donation. Thank you to all of you for watching on YouTube and Facebook. Follow Right Side at RSB Network. I am at Lookner on Twitter. Jake is at Jacob RSBN Music. And subscribe to us on YouTube and follow us on Facebook. You can do all those things. So thank you for watching. For now, have a great day and hope to see you this evening for the election coverage. Have a good one.